During the 4 days of this phase, we are scheduled to host a total of 31 sessions to hear input from a diverse group of stakeholders from across the county. We certainly want to thank you and the Board of Education for partnering with us and creating such an inclusive process to gain voice from its constituents. We would like to first take the opportunity to introduce our team here tonight. I am Dr. Tawana Grover and my colleague, Mr. Bob Copeland. I will give him an opportunity to give a little bit of his background.
Thank you, Dr. Grover. Thank all of you for coming and for watching on the live stream. Dr. Grover says, my name is Bob Copeland. I am a recently retired superintendent with about 20 years experience as a superintendent in 3 different districts in New Jersey and in Pennsylvania. I also came up through the ranks as a teacher, an assistant principal, an assistant superintendent, working in suburban and urban school districts. I also have the unique experiences to working as a mentor for aspiring superintendents in the AASA Howard University Urban Academy. And I also act as a mentor for superintendents who are currently in their jobs, but who are looking to be nationally certified. Looking forward to working with the Baltimore County Board and the community, so doing our great job getting a good superintendent for you.
Hey, thank you so much. Again, Dr. Tawana Grover. I am a 27-year educator. I also came up through the traditional ranks of the education career. I started out as a 5th grade teacher, born and raised in the great state of Alabama. After spending some time there during my career, I transitioned to the Dallas-Fort Worth area in Texas, where I spent 13 years. I spent time as a campus administrator. I worked for the district office in curriculum and instruction and human resources. For the past 7 years, I was a superintendent of Grand Island Public Schools in the state of Nebraska, where I'm very proud of the work that we were able to accomplish there. And most recently, I was named the superintendent for Cedar Rapids Community School District in the state of Iowa. We have enjoyed our time here this week getting to connect with so many of your different stakeholders. During our time together, we asked 4 questions that we use with all of the stakeholder groups and the town hall meetings. The comments shared, they will be compiled to create an executive summary that will be shared with the Board of Education on April 18th. After the report is presented to the board, the report will be made available for public consumption. The 4 questions we ask, so you will have a little time to think about it before we get started. They include telling us some of the good things about the Baltimore County community. We'll also be looking to get some positive things about Baltimore County Public Schools. As we go through this process, it's a 2-way street. We'll be looking to attract candidates to the area, and we want to be able to share with them some of the highlights and some things that you value and appreciate about your community, and what's working well that they will have the opportunity to build upon. We also like to take a look at what are some of the issues and challenges that the new superintendent will face. And the 4th question, we like to talk about the skills and characteristics that the new superintendent should possess to be successful in Baltimore County Public Schools. We have an hour here together tonight, so please be mindful of the time of your comments. Feel free to offer comments to 1, 2, 3, or all of the 4 questions. In addition to the focus group and town hall meetings, we have a survey that asks the same questions. Anyone from the Baltimore County Public Schools community is welcome to complete the survey. The survey is live and available on the district's website and social media platforms. Regarding the search process, the Baltimore County Public Schools Board of Education is committed to this process. They have been very thoughtful and inclusive of stakeholders in the process. Details and timelines regarding the search process can be found on the district's website. If you have specific questions about the search, we'll stick around a few minutes after the forum to address. We will be using the 2 microphones here on the floor tonight. So when we are ready, you can please form a line on both sides and we will take turns. And also, please note, we want to give kudos to the BCPS-TV crew. They are also with us tonight, and they are live streaming for us. So if we are ready to get started, you can just feel free to come to either one of the microphones, and we can start with the first question. If you want to share what are some of the great things about your community you'd like to share.
Good evening. Oh, sorry about that. Good evening. Thank you for this opportunity this evening. My name is Mary Taylor. I'm a vice president of a local advocacy group for education purposes. It's called the Baltimore County Parent and Student Coalition. So I'm here as not only as a representative of our coalition, but as a member of my community. Your first question was kind of perplexing to me because I wasn't sure why you were asking that question, what I found good qualities in my community, what that would have to do with the superintendent search. After hearing your introduction, I kind of understand now why you were asking that question. But I look behind me, and I have to say I'm a little disappointed that my community didn't show up more than a few people here tonight. But I did want to acknowledge that Ron McMillian, our District 7 representative of the Board of Education, is here tonight, and I very much appreciate his voice and his time that he spends on our Board of Education. I did want to bring to light, though, when I want to say that this has no reflection on the staff and the hardworking teachers and employees of this school. This is more of a reflection of why we need a new superintendent. And I would say a cleaning of our staff that's at Central as well, which maybe a new superintendent will bring with them. I want to tell you a few things about this school right here, Chesapeake High School. 33% of the students here in this school in 2019, now this was before the pandemic, and they have not done these assessments since 2019, but only 33% of the students here met or exceeded performance level on the state English assessment. In 2019, only 14.29% met or exceeded performance level on the state math assessments. The SAT day average score is 808, and that was in 2021 to 2022. Graduation rate in 2020 and 2021 was 87.55%. 0 students, I'm going to say that again, 0 students were proficient in math on the spring 2022 MCAP assessments, and that's the Maryland Comprehensive Assessment Program. And the school in whole only received 2 stars on the 2022 report card, down from 3 stars in 2018 and 2019. This is why this type of community involvement is important to hear our voices. Chesapeake High School, under the leadership of our current superintendent and those who work under him, are failing our children, and our children deserve better. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. I'll go over the 4 questions again. When you come to the mic, feel free to address any other questions, just so that we manage our time well. You can talk about the great things about the community, about the Baltimore County Public Schools. You can also share about some of the issues that the new superintendent should be aware of that he or she may face, as well as any skills, qualities, or characteristics that should be present. My colleague here, Mr. Copeland, he's taken copious notes as we move forward through this evening. Okay, anyone else would like to share with us tonight?
Good evening. I'm Anna Weisberg, and I am a teacher at Deep Creek Middle School, which is part of this feeder pattern. And can you hear me okay? And I'm also a representative on the board of directors of our local teachers union, TABCO. Maybe I didn't like that angle. And I want to just kind of address your different questions in order. I feel like you're getting some really horrible noises. Am I the only one hearing that?
Let's just take a moment. We'll check to see if we need to make any adjustments.
Move closer. All right, does that fix it? No. Are we okay? All right, I just don't want to leave anybody with a headache. So in terms of good things about our community, I just moved here from South Jersey in 2015, and what I've been so impressed and delighted by is there's a very strong culture of enjoyment of the outdoors, and there are a lot of beautiful, wonderful outdoor spaces, and agitation in the community for even more cool things to do. We're in the midst of budget hearings and so they're having lots of town halls, and I'm at many of them, and big agitation for trails to be improved and more outdoor frisbee golf opportunity, so it's just like a lot of really people who like the outdoors, people who love the water, also really strong environmental focus, much more than anywhere else I've lived. And it's cool, people are really wanting to care for the environment and the Chesapeake Bay, and that's neat. Lot of green efforts with I don't know, other people can probably talk about that more, but I've been amazed and delighted by all of those efforts. There's also just some cool active groups in the community pushing for social justice and equity and recognition of some of the not just the beautiful history, but also like the conflicting history, but trying to find ways to respect that. And so people who are a candidate who's interested in social justice and a kind of a vibrant community around those issues might appreciate those components. In terms of the good things about our schools, the staff that I've worked with are incredibly well educated and are very passionate. We are also, we'll get to that. I'm trying to go through your questions. I also think it's a huge asset that we have an active and very progressive teachers union that's very much trying to make things better for students and families with a social justice agenda, and we're in coalition with other members, other like-minded organizations in the community. And in terms of thinking about a new superintendent and the skills, qualities, and characteristics, I would especially want to see someone who is interested in collaborating, is able both to bring a breadth of knowledge and experience, but also with the humility to recognize and tap into the strengths of the existing people who are here. And I see a big concern in our district because it's so big. And so there's this major issue of decentralized power where people in buildings can't do what they need to do. I'll give you a silly example, but it's not silly to me. I'm a reading intervention teacher and for middle school kids, and 33% of the intervention that I'm doing with some of my students in 90 minutes is they are doing a computer-based application. But somewhere, somebody in some office decided, or maybe it was a board, I don't even know, that because we have computers for every kid, teachers can't have any spare computers. So if I have a kid who's a middle school student who didn't bring their device, maybe their parents are split up and they forgot it at someone else's house or whatever, they can't do their intervention, and they're already 3 years behind in reading. And my principal is not allowed to decide to use money that we have to buy another computer, more computers. So that issue of how decisions are made, I would hope that he or she would be open to really looking at the analyses that have already been done, taking in input from the people on the ground, and sort of figuring out a way to empower people at the building level to do their best. So that is one characteristic, and I'm hogging the mic, so I'm gonna take a break, and I'll circle back if other people get bored.
Sure, thank you, come on up.
I'm so sorry. I was trying to figure out if I was able to talk because I'm a teacher here. My name is LJ Faust. I teach mass communications and journalism here at Chesapeake High School. I kind of wanted to piggyback off of what everybody else is saying. I want to thank Rob McMillian for being here because not only before he was in the school board, he was a teacher here. And so the first thing I would say is that I taught with Rod McMillian, and not only was he a mentor, but one thing that he understood was looking at the climate of a school, look at the environment, and it takes more than just the idea of being in the classroom. It takes the holistic approach. Even as an athletic director, he understood that the community mattered. And that's one of the things that I wanted to say about Chesapeake. I've been here for 15 years on purpose. I live 40 miles, no, I live in Reisterstown, so I do apologize. This is about a 40-minute drive on purpose. I was able to cultivate an opportunity where I got to see kids grow academically and as far as their character. So that's the one thing I like about this community, is that it's a ever-evolving opportunity for kids to be able to be successful, but also to take a moment for character to be put in place and the opportunity for them to be successful. So I've been here when it was 3 stars, I've been here when there was 2 stars. And one of the things I do want to stress that I want to look for our county to be more cognizant and aware of is how we evaluate and how we rate versus the idea of how we show success. I think that is very important to stop and look and see what that really looks like, because I think that on paper, like you can say 2 stars, I take offense to that, because the people who probably evaluated did it on a survey where they don't even recognize that last year we had a kid that went to Harvard, right? I mean, and there's schools that are probably 3 stars. You can get a kid into Harvard, minority kid. And even when we're talking about this, we're having kids that are first generation college-bound students. And these are the things that you can't really evaluate and assess sometimes when you're looking at these things. So one of the things I also want to talk about is, and I hope I say this correctly, even when we start looking at evaluation of ratings and testing, I am looking for the county to be very transparent. Sometimes these tests and sometimes the evaluation, especially during the COVID time, there were things that definitely probably do not reflect the way they should on these assessments and some of these rates, whether it was COVID or not. I do feel like that the opportunity to utilize money properly is very important, but if we're going to be transparent and we're going to be assessed based on things like that, I would like a real conversation about how that looks and what that looks like in a county, and hopefully a superintendent will be willing to do that for us. And also to understand, once again, community culture, what builds a student for success. Academics is always going to be at the forefront. It really is. But I have a lot of students that need nurturing and the opportunity to just have a time to be able to be a leader in a safe space, so then they could try to work that out and then be successful wherever they go. And that doesn't equate sometimes when you're doing it through the academics. You got to build a kid to be successful outside of your net, because the academics do matter, but they always need the opportunity to be able to be in a place where they are challenged, and they'll be able to know that they can go to a job and be successful based on their character, the climate they're in, and knowing how to adapt. And that's one of the things that we don't really get assessed with. So hopefully that's what I'm looking for my county. I love this school, and we have tons of work to always do, just like any other school. And I love the community. Community comes back and forth 24/7. And sometimes they stay. Like, some of them don't have kids here. So I am looking for partnerships with the community. We are a community school that gives us the opportunity. So I just hope that all these things are looked at, not only for my school, for the county, and the superintendent also looks at it. The assessments of idea of just rating people based on data, I need some transparency with that. So thank you.
And before we go forward, I just want to make sure, I feel like I'm getting some extra noise here, so I just want to make sure that we're able to hear the speakers clearly when they come to the microphone. Okay, others that would like to come forward. You can share on any of the questions. You can share great things about the community, about the schools, issues the new superintendent will face, as well as any skills, characteristics, qualities that you're looking for in the next superintendent.
I just feel compelled to speak since there's not many people here, and I was going to come and listen and learn. This is my first year in the Baltimore County Public School System. Even though I'm almost of retirement age, I have a background in substitute teaching at my kids' little Catholic school and being a TA at an independent school for the most intellectually challenged children. So this is a breeze working here. I've got to say that everybody's like, oh my God, you're going to be so afraid, you're going to be threatened. I've never felt afraid any day at work. I'm in a public school and I feel like I'm safe. The kids, well, I'm a special educator. I'm a job coach, so I'm working in the certificate program where the kids will age out at 21 and we take them to job sites in the afternoon. I don't understand. I know there's a hierarchy in BCPS. I don't really understand it. I'm at the bottom of it, and I just do what the teachers ask me to do. And the teachers teach every student of theirs with the utmost respect and patience and kindness and love. I work in 4 different schools, and they're all different, but the essence of them is all the same: to teach these children social skills, you know, how to count money, how to do a little bit of reading. And they do this every day, all day. Some, for years, I do work out of this school 1 day a week. And I just, you know, I know that everybody is on the same team, and they all want these kids to do well. And it's just so obvious in every single school that they want to, you know, have a plan for these kids when they get out of here. The one thing I did notice is I'm used to being in a small setting where you can speak your mind and kind of get down to nuts and bolts. And I feel like it's probably a county thing where you can't do that, where I feel like administrators and higher ups than that are afraid of litigation, and so they are so careful about what they say that they don't want to say the wrong thing. And somebody might come back and say, well, you said this, so I get it. They cannot speak off the cuff. Everything is carefully, I feel like there's a plan for what they want to say, but I just found myself feeling disconnected from them, and they were disconnected from me. That if I had a real concern, they may have that concern, but they're not going to express it in a way that I really feel like it's not genuine, but they just didn't want to set themselves up for somebody to come back. And I found that a little bit off-putting. And this is just me reflecting on my first year at school. And I'll be here a few more years, and you know, people might talk about the pay raise. Hey, I'm making a lot more money than I ever did, even in this independent school. I love the sign-on bonus. I love all the information that comes out every single day. I try to learn it, but if I had to have a complaint, it's just that, you know, working in the hierarchy and what the expectations are, and not to like overstep something because I don't understand my position all the way, and I try to help and intervene in any way that I can. And I feel like whatever, it's just working for a big school system. But I'm very happy here. I'm very impressed with every teacher that I see, and my supervisors too are great. So just some of my kids need services. I know that's a big concern. They're not all getting the services they need. And if I were a parent of a child that had an IEP or some other program, you can bet that I would be pushing and, you know, saying, where is this? My child's entitled to this. And that would be something that I would push for if I had a child in any public school system. So, thank you.
Yeah, I didn't come with prepared. I have statements from the activist group that I'm a part of, but I didn't come with my own thoughts. I mean, my own prepared. I was, for one thing, I too thought I would come here and hear what lots of other people had to say, and this is part of the problem with the process that's been rushed. We have not sufficient time for the community at large to be aware that these forums are going on. You know, tonight is the last one. I assume there's a way to submit written testimony. Is that okay?
Correct. Yes, you can submit written testimony on the survey, and it's going to be open until April the 1st, so you still have, you know, a week
Okay.
or so, and it will be the same 4 questions, and you can copy and paste if you have already typed something, or you can.
I just got them tonight, so I'll think about them and reflect and make sure, and I'll share that with other people. But in general, yeah, so I live in the Towson area. This is the only night it was available, so I said, do I want to go 25 miles east to Essex, or I'm not 25 minutes east to Essex, or 25 minutes north to Hereford? So I chose Essex anyway, because I haven't been out here before. Some of the issues that I think are priority for the superintendent to be aware of, and I'm actually addressing this to the general public as well. My child graduated from Towson High School in 2006, so I still care very much about public education, particularly with the kinds of things that are happening in other states with to undermine public education. So here we are, that was 17 years ago? All right, if I can still do math. Yeah, 17 years ago. She's a successful professional and all that. But I've heard I have friends who have their children still in those schools, in Towson High School, and I've heard the term that many of these schools, they're really 2 schools in one. You have, Towson is a magnet school for law and public policy, and the AP kids, the gifted kids, the magnet kids, they're getting one level of education. And then everybody else is not getting the same kind of attention. And there's 2 areas where we're short on, well, there's many areas we're short on staffing. One is ELL, English as English language learners, and 2 is special education teachers. And I'm sure you've already been reported how many teachers are resigning this year. And it's a county problem and a national problem, but the superintendent will have to address this. When you don't have the right staffing, or when you pull regular teachers to teach special ed, they're not qualified, they don't know all the nuances, or you now increase the caseload of special ed teachers, they can't do a proper teaching and paperwork with a larger caseload. And the other thing I think the general public is not aware of is the number of students who are on free and reduced meals. It has jumped now, I believe it's now 61 or 63% of our students in our public schools. That's a poverty measure. And we're using community schools and to do that, but we're just new to community schools, so we need very good transparency, accountability, feedback, two-way communication. And the other issue I've heard is that, and I think the woman before me alluded to it, is there seems to be a suppression of being open within schools about actual issues, and that I think there's a tendency to hide what the issues are rather than having a two-way open venue with central office and individual schools so that issues can be addressed rather than buried. It's very easy, and this, we came from Fairfax County when my children were younger, so I have a large school system to compare it to. And, I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. I should have written this down. That you can bury problems by aggregating data. So you know, it looks like a school or a system is doing much better than it is, but I was particularly active in special education. And once you disaggregate the data, you get a better, more accurate picture of all the groups. So that is important. I think we also need a superintendent who is willing to learn about the history of our recent series of superintendents and willing to face it head on and have some new visionary, innovative ideas to right this ship, because right now we're in this kind of rocky boat, I think, with the school system. And I think I've said enough off the top of my head. I'll try and make my thoughts more cogent and, to the point. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And if you think of anything else, we still have about 20 minutes or so here together tonight, so you can come back if you like. Others, you can address any of the 4 questions. Issues, and we'd love to get some more feedback on the skills, qualities, and characteristics the new superintendent should possess.
Did I turn? No, I did not. I thought we were going to go question to question, but I'll skip to question 3 if I may. Could you tell me what question 3 is? Because I don't have it written down, but I do have my notes.
What issues should the superintendent be aware of as he or she comes into Baltimore County Public Schools?
Okay, I'll be brief. I have a few talking points. The first, I believe, is academic outcomes have declined over the last 10 years. The budget is over 50% of the overall county budget. It's a big budget. Discipline practices are greatly inadequate and inconsistent. Makeup of school community is increasingly poor. We qualify largely as a concentration of poverty areas in Baltimore County. They need lots of services. Rapidly growing English learner population, which presents new stressors on educators and administrators to meet the needs of those students. And special education services have been less than adequate for years. So these are some of the talking points I believe that our new superintendent should take into consideration and make that the whole large part of his or hers operational outcomes. Thank you.
Thank you. Very succinct. Thank you.
Okay, well, I'm going to go on to 4, and then I'll be done for the evening, and somebody else can come up behind me. So as we embark on the search for a superintendent, I like to keep in mind that any BCPS executive director or higher up to the superintendent that's been in position for longer than 5 years is not the strongest candidates for the elevated role based on the fact that student outcomes, teacher retention, and overall trust in the system has eroded during this time. So the characteristics that we would like to see in a future BCPS superintendent include: we need a superintendent who puts parents, students, and the community first. BCPS has an organizational chart, and I'm not sure if you've even seen that or not, but parents, students, and community sit at the top of that list. Right now, parents, many students, and people of the community feel shut out from many processes within the BCPS system. We need a superintendent to listen to key officials and community members, but always act into the interest of students first versus political patronage. Exhibit courage and conviction, and what I mean by that, not to be ruled by special interest groups. Recognize the role of technology in education, but let's not make instruction a slave to technology. Be able to address crises, but should also anticipate crises and avoid them. And I'm not just speaking of COVID. We need to consider school violence and unstable environments to be a crisis. Have a plan, not just some vague mission. It doesn't equal achievement, and anyone can point to the end of the road of a positive goal, but we need someone who has the same sense of direction or how to get there. We must maintain effective communication with the community, not just press releases and talk about what is so great under his or her leadership. He or she is knowledgeable of the best practices for maximizing student achievement and is supportive of teachers in the district. A great superintendent is an effective communicator. He or she must make a concerted effort to communicate the needs and accomplishments of the district in a variety of formats, through written reports, communication with the media, public meetings, and attendance at school events. A great superintendent is a good manager. He or she directs the administrators to accomplish the goals in their district, monitors their progress, and elevates their performance. A great superintendent is flexible. He or she needs to be able to manage the politics of the job, to adapt to new board members, changes in state funding, and changes in the school community while not sacrificing the district's vision. A great superintendent takes a collaborative rather than confrontational approach. So I want to say that I listened to the last two meetings that you all had, and we have great concerns by some influential people who are promoting people from inside BCPS that's been in executive position for over 5 years and is not a reasonable candidate based on the downward trajectory of academic outcomes, continuing loss of experienced and dedicated teachers, and the loss of trust in the leadership of the system. Bringing back an individual who was removed under ethic violations is moving backwards at a time when we simply cannot afford to do so. I did want to clarify one thing. I am not here tonight to pick on teachers. They're doing a wonderful job, and I'm not here just to pick on Chesapeake High School. I am a graduate of BCPS. I graduated from Kenwood High School. My son is a graduate of Chesapeake High School. He had an amazing education here at Chesapeake, and Miss Lowery was the principal at the time. And she was such a great advocate for my son, and I can never thank her for her kindness and her advocacy to help my son walk across the stage and receive his high school diploma. But the current staff at Central and the superintendent who we now have is failing our children, not our educators. They are hardworking. That's why many people in this community was outspoken about having Dr. Williams, I said it, Dr. Williams replaced with a new superintendent. And we do truly believe, many in this community truly believe, that we need new leadership here, not someone that's already involved in the system. So I hope when you gather all your feedback and you do your search, that you do a nationwide search for somebody who can come and right this ship, as the lady behind me said, because we're sinking, and we're sinking fast, and the only collateral damage we have right now is the children. Thank you.
Good evening. Okay, I'm here to talk about the SSA program, Student Safety Assistant program that we currently have in place. I think that the new superintendent needs to come in and change this program that we have. Because right now, at its current inception, it doesn't offer any protection to the student safety assistants from students being disrespectful, from students being violent, and even from students going to administration and saying things that aren't true about these safety assistants to get them sent out of schools or even to get them fired. I'm going to give you my story. I worked at Parkville High For people that's not aware, Parkville High is the biggest high school in all of Baltimore County. We have about 2,000 students there, over 2,000 students, and over 100 teachers, okay? I was employed there I started working there the second day of school, so from August. During this time, I was, doing my duties, doing my job as it had been explained to me, doing my best. And, the kids were, because it's a new program, so a lot of kids wasn't used to having, security, as they call it, in the building. So at first I got a lot of, resistance, but eventually, as with kids, they warm up to you eventually. They see you enough, they understand what you're doing, they start to, listen to you more and more and more. Okay, so we fast forward to March. So I've been here from August to March. In March, Parkville High they decided to do a new thing with the lunches, because the lunches, during the lunch periods, we would have dozens of kids in the hallway that on each floors that we would have to deal with, because we didn't know who was supposed to be at lunch, who wasn't, if they were supposed to be on this lunch or that lunch. So we devised a whole new plan of doing lunches. We initiated this plan on a Monday, and that Monday, that was the first time in 7 months that I had seen the hallways completely clear at lunchtime. But of course, the kids, they didn't like it. They were saying, "Oh, it feel like jail in here," and this, that, and the third, and "Oh, they're trying to lock us up," as kids will do. The same week that we initiated this, I had some kids that were down in the main lobby where I was posted at, and they were doing like a TikTok video, a whole collaboration, like 3 or 4 of them, choreographed dance or whatever. So I didn't say nothing to them at that time, because there was another SSA there with some resource officer there with some teachers, Okay, I'll leave them alone for the second. I end up seeing one of them later on, and I said something to her. I said, "You guys did a great job, but you can't be doing TikToks in the main lobby, during lunch times, because if some other kids see you doing it, of course they're gonna think they can do it as well." And then next time we got 20 kids down there doing a TikTok video. Okay. I say this to her. I make a comment about their dancing. She laughs. She makes a comment back. She goes about her day. The next day I come in. I'm called down to the office by my assistant principal. My assistant principal tells me that what I said to the girl she said that it made her feel uncomfortable. I say, okay, all I was telling her, I explained what I said. He asked me to write a statement, I write a statement. Of course, they say they have to do an investigation. Okay, they send me home while the investigation is going on. Okay.
And mindful of, incidents that occurred with the students. So if you could just help elevate up to the concern
Okay, yes, I
in
am.
regards to the issues. So
Okay.
it seems like there are some concerns around safety
Yes.
or student discipline or follow through.
Yes.
So if you want to kind of just, elevate it up so we don't have those specific details.
Okay.
I do appreciate the
I'll skip
context.
to the end then.
Thank you.
Okay, so long story short, I'm no longer employed at Parkville High. My concern is that if you have students that could manipulate the system if you have somebody that's doing their job and the kids see them is doing their job too well, and they're able to manipulate the system and get SSAs or teachers or even administrators moved by just saying whatever, if there's no system in place to protect these people, where they're doing, real investigations to see if these things are true, then it undermines the whole system. You could say anybody did anything or say anything and get that person misplaced or terminated or whatever, and it lowers the security of the school, especially if you have good people in place. Because people that are doing their job, that's the ones that the kids don't like. They don't want the ones that's doing their job. They want the ones that's letting them get away with things and all that. So we need a superintendent that's will come in and do something about that program and make it so that we can be safe, and that the system's not able to get manipulated by. Because it's a good system in place if it stays in place. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Good evening. So I like everyone else, I thought I would come in and kind of sit back and listen. For me, being involved in the school system is a little bit new. In fact, my daughter just turned 1 yesterday, so we have a ways to go. But you know, I know people have seen me at other events and just kind of being a concerned community member. But so when I was invited out, the Overly PTA had invited me out to kind of come and listen. And their concerns were reflective of what everyone has said here, especially with the having more teacher support, especially for students that, you know, English isn't their first language. I've heard as I go through other communities, they only get maybe one para once a week for 15 minutes, if that, and as we know, that's just not enough. We have I think she was speaking about how we have a growing poverty issue here throughout our whole community in Baltimore County. But one thing that I've seen as I've traveled across the county over the last year or two is that some of the schools that are quote unquote more desirable or are higher performing is you see more community engagement. So one thing I've always spoke about was how can we get information out equitably to all of the communities, right? When I went to the meeting a couple weeks ago in Towson, you couldn't find a parking spot, right? And it wasn't about timing, because I found out about it that week, maybe the 2 days prior. Just like this meeting, I found out 2 days prior. And, you know, now that I'm here, you know, it's an empty auditorium, so I don't know how much a superintendent can do to address it, but I would love to see someone that's willing to get on the ground level, to get in the trenches, to really engage the community, right? Because I think an engaged community will help elevate the school, will help elevate the experience of the students. Like I said, my daughter's 1 year old as of yesterday, and when I found out about the growing level of poverty at Overly High School and how some students couldn't pay for their prom tickets, right? I said, well, no problem. We'll sponsor a few students. I believe that many people in the community would do that, whether they have kids at the school or not. But, you know, like everyone else here, or some people here, I'm a product of Baltimore County Schools, grew up on this side of town. I went to Eastern, I had a different experience. But as I think about putting my daughter in these schools in 4 years, at the current rate, I wouldn't be comfortable. But I want her to be a product of county schools just like I was, because I turned out just right. So yeah, I just say that to say if it's possible to find somebody that's willing to be more engaging in the communities, especially the communities of need. We already know the communities that are strong, right? I think one of the most telling statements when we went to the redistricting, or how the schools were going to feed the middle schools, the parents in the Towson area, they said, cookie cutter, tomato, doesn't really matter. We just don't want to break up our community, because these are the schools that my son or my daughter plays at this rec. But whether they go to this elementary school or that, it doesn't matter, because it's a good school. But when I looked at the maps for the east side, those are the maps that had the most variability into the change. This is the side of town that people are playing with the most. But I understand. So I just ask that when you find that next superintendent, that it's somebody that's not afraid to engage in the communities of need. That's it.
Yes, thank you so much. And as we move for the last 12 minutes that we have here together, we'll move to the fourth question. What skills, qualities, or characteristics, and these can just be one words, phrases that describe the next superintendent. If you still have issues that you want to bring up, please feel free to share that as well. But we'd love to get more insight on the skills, qualities, and characteristics that the new superintendent should possess in order to be successful here for you in Baltimore County Public Schools.
Sure, thank you. I think I just want to amplify a couple of things that have been said that I believe mostly pertain to number 4, perhaps entirely. First is, people have mentioned transparency, and I think it's so important that, again, that issue of being open with the challenges. We all know that our district is has the potential to be amazing. We have all these passionate, I know we're not all here because we didn't know about it, but so many passionate parents and educators and community members. And if the leader needs to not think, the superintendent needs to not think that it is all on them to figure out the vast challenges facing our community, and be willing to share that responsibility and those problems with us, with our communities of who are in poverty, and all of us. It's 66% are qualifying for free and reduced meals. So that's like most of our community. Like we need to know what the problems are so we can share ownership for solving the problems, and we need someone who believes in that. Second, someone who is up to the challenge. We received this massive analysis of the effectiveness of the district a couple years back, and to be able to take in all that data and implement it effectively. So going back to what Ms. Taylor said, somebody who is a really good manager and executive. And lastly, to amplify what Mr. Faust was saying earlier, that there are so many different measures of success, so it needs to be someone open to the idea that some of our students, their top need is to address their social and emotional and behavioral needs, because they have had some really rough years. And some of them are barely available to learn right now. And if we're trying to pretend that they don't need us to address those needs and that we should just come in and barrel through this curriculum, we are not only not helping them, we are hurting them, because they're failing academically and they're not getting the skills they need to be successful, happy grown-ups. So just someone open to that idea that not every path is going to be a clear-cut, let's just dive into that algebra. So those are my final remarks. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We still do have just a few minutes here together tonight. So any last final thoughts, anything you came here tonight hoping that you would share? We want to make sure that you don't leave without sharing all of your thoughts with us tonight. Any final words from anyone in the audience tonight? Okay, so we would again like to thank you so much for coming out, being authentic with us, sharing your concerns, and being a voice for others who were not able to make it here tonight. We also want to remind you that we do have the survey is open, and again, anyone can complete the survey. It is available in multiple languages as well, and so we will again compile all of the information. We try to stay as authentic to the comments as they were made with us, unless if there's any vulgarity or profanity, we will take that out. But other than that, we will make sure that we submit it just as you provided it to us as well. So again, thank you so much, and thank you for being advocates for the Baltimore County Public Schools.